Imagine waking up one day to a world on the brink of collapse. The sky is shrouded in thick, ominous clouds. The air carries an eerie stillness, and the distant sound of chaos echoes through the desolate streets. Civilization as we know it is crumbling, and humanity is standing at the edge of extinction. But this isn't just some dystopian fantasy. History has shown time and time again that societies can fall, empires can vanish, and entire civilizations can be wiped out by forces beyond their control. The question is, if humanity were truly faced with its final battle for survival, would we have the strength to endure, or would we succumb to the inevitable? Throughout history, humanity has been tested by cataclysmic events. The Black Death, in the 14th century, wiped out nearly half of Europe's population, leaving behind devastated cities and fractured societies. The eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815 plunged the world into a year without summer, causing widespread famine and economic collapse. And in 1918, the Spanish flu tore through every corner of the globe, infecting 1/3 of the world's population and killing millions. These moments in history remind us of one chilling truth: survival is never guaranteed. Yet in each instance, humanity found a way to persist, to rebuild, and to adapt. But what if the next global catastrophe is unlike anything we have ever faced? Scientists and experts warn that there are many possible threats looming on the horizon, each capable of pushing humanity to its breaking point. Climate change is accelerating at an unprecedented rate, leading to rising sea levels, devastating wildfires, and extreme weather events that displace millions. A sudden and deadly pandemic could emerge, far more lethal than anything in recorded history. The possibility of nuclear war remains a terrifying reality, with the potential to obliterate entire nations within moments. And then there are existential threats that seem like science fiction but are alarmingly real. Artificial intelligence surpassing human control, asteroid impacts with planet-wide consequences, or even the sudden collapse of Earth's ecosystems. The stage is set for a final confrontation, a battle between human ingenuity and the relentless forces of destruction. But what would a true last stand look like? Imagine a scenario where a deadly pathogen sweeps across the globe, far worse than anything seen before. Governments collapse under the weight of mass panic, medical systems fail, and entire regions are cut off from the rest of the world. Quarantines become permanent, and the social fabric begins to unravel. Desperate to survive, people turn on each other. Lawlessness spreads, and the very foundations of civilization start to crumble. Those who survive the initial outbreak must now contend with a world that no longer resembles the one they once knew. Would technology save us, or would it become a tool of oppression in the hands of those who seize control in the chaos? Now imagine another possibility: an asteroid, miles wide, hurtling toward Earth at incomprehensible speeds. With only weeks to prepare, scientists scramble to devise a way to deflect or destroy the incoming threat. The world watches in terror as plans are made. Last-minute decisions are debated, and leaders argue over the best course of action. Do we have the capability to prevent such a disaster, or would this be a replay of the fate that once wiped out the dinosaurs? If the asteroid struck, entire continents could be erased in an instant, and the survivors would be left in a world of perpetual darkness, where food and clean water become more valuable than gold. In such a scenario, survival wouldn't just depend on who was prepared, but on the ability to adapt to a world that had become unrecognizable. Even if humanity somehow managed to endure one extinction-level event, there is no guarantee that another wouldn't follow. The collapse of industrial civilization could lead to a downward spiral, where weakened nations struggle to recover, and the balance of power shifts unpredictably. The resources that once fueled modern society, oil, clean water, arable land, could become scarce, leading to global conflicts unlike any before. Wars wouldn't just be fought over ideology or politics, but over the very essentials needed for human life. If society were to fracture beyond repair, what would rise from its ashes? Would we return to a tribal state, fighting over scraps of the old world, or would a new order emerge, forged in the crucible of humanity's greatest struggle? The final battle for survival would not be a single moment, but a series of challenges, each testing the limits of what it means to be human. Would our greatest strengths, innovation, resilience, cooperation, be enough to pull us back from the brink? Or would our worst instincts, selfishness, greed, destruction, seal our fate. In the wake of catastrophe, the survivors would face an unforgiving world where every decision could mean the difference between life and death. The infrastructures that once supported billions, electricity, clean water, global supply chains, would crumble within days. Without immediate intervention, the cities that once bustled with life would become tombs of the past, overrun by nature and the remnants of human desperation. But history has shown that when societies fall, those who endure must quickly adapt or face extinction themselves. How would the remnants of humanity navigate a world where the old rules no longer apply? One of the first and most crucial battles would be for resources. Without modern agriculture, food supplies would vanish within weeks. Supermarkets would be looted and emptied almost immediately, and once-stocked warehouses would become battlegrounds for the desperate. The skills that were once considered outdated, hunting, fishing, foraging, and farming, would become the keys to survival. Those who understood the land and its secrets would hold the power to sustain life, while others would struggle against starvation. In a world where money has no value, the most basic necessities would become the new currency. Barter systems could emerge, where clean water, medicine, or even knowledge of survival tactics could be traded like gold. But would this new system lead to cooperation, or would the desire for dominance drive humanity into an age of endless conflict? In times of chaos, power naturally shifts to those who can provide stability or impose control. Throughout history, societies have risen and fallen based on leadership. In the face of global collapse, would humanity form new coalitions, small self-sustaining communities working together to rebuild? Or would warlords and dictators rise, seizing power through force and fear? The vacuum of leadership could lead to a world divided into factions, each with its own rules, ideologies, and vision for the future. Some might attempt to restore democracy, clinging to the ideals of the old world, while others would establish regimes based on survival at any cost. The question of morality would become blurred. What sacrifices would be justified in the name of survival? Technology, once the backbone of civilization, could become both a lifeline and a threat. Those with access to advanced knowledge, engineers, scientists, medical professionals, would be among the most valuable people in this new world. The ability to generate power, filter water, or create rudimentary medicine could determine who thrives and who perishes. But technology could also become a weapon. Drones, automated security systems, and artificial intelligence could fall into the hands of those seeking absolute control. Imagine a world where those with the last remaining technological advantages use them to dominate the rest, creating fortified strongholds where only the elite survive while the masses are left to fight over scraps. But even in the darkest times, human resilience has a way of defying the odds. The ability to adapt and innovate has always been our species' greatest strength. In the face of destruction, new communities might emerge, built not on power and control, but on shared survival. Underground bunkers, hidden self-sufficient villages, or floating oceanic societies could serve as safe havens for those seeking a new way of life. The remnants of science and knowledge could be preserved, with groups dedicated to rebuilding the world, ensuring that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. And yet, the greatest enemy of all might not be the environment, the scarcity of resources, or even other humans. It might be time itself. If humanity's infrastructure collapses completely, how long before the knowledge we've accumulated for centuries is lost? Without electricity, without digital records, how many generations would it take before science, medicine, and history fade into myth? The fall of the Roman Empire led to the Dark Ages, where countless advancements were forgotten for centuries. Could the same happen on a global scale? If the world resets, would the survivors be able to rebuild, or would civilization enter a permanent downward spiral? As the world descends into its final struggle, one truth becomes undeniable. Humanity's survival depends not just on strength, but on wisdom. The choices made in the first weeks, months, and years after collapse would determine whether the species fades into history or rises once again. The battle for survival is not simply about who can endure the longest, but about who can find a way to create a future worth living in. As the years pass in a world reshaped by catastrophe, the remnants of humanity will face their greatest challenge yet. Not just surviving, but rebuilding. The world they once knew is gone, replaced by a brutal landscape where nature reclaims the ruins of civilization. Skyscrapers collapse under the weight of time, roads crumble into dust, and the remnants of technological marvels rust away, becoming little more than relics of a lost era. But even in the face of devastation, the human spirit remains unbroken. The question now is not just how to stay alive, but whether humanity can forge a new path forward, one that does not repeat the mistakes of the past. In the early days of rebuilding, knowledge will be the most valuable resource of all. The survivors, who remember how to cultivate crops, purify water, and build shelters, will become the architects of a new world. Libraries, once filled with the accumulated wisdom of generations, may now be abandoned ruins. But their contents, if preserved, could become the foundation of a new civilization. Those who safeguard the past, who pass down the skills and stories of a forgotten age, will shape the destiny of future generations. But will they be able to restore the achievements of the old world, or will the march of progress take an entirely new direction? History has shown that civilizations rise from the ashes of those that came before. After the fall of Rome, medieval Europe eventually birthed the Renaissance, a period of rebirth and rediscovery. Could something similar happen after a global collapse? The surviving communities, scattered and isolated, might develop their own unique cultures and traditions, forging new identities in a world that has been reset. But as settlements grow, old patterns may begin to emerge. Trade routes may form between regions, leading to the return of commerce. Leaders may rise, seeking to unite the scattered remnants of humanity under a common cause. And inevitably, conflicts may arise, some fighting for power, others for ideology, and some simply for the last remaining resources of the old world. One of the biggest questions in this new era would be whether humanity learns from its past mistakes. Would those who rebuild seek to create a society based on equality, sustainability, and cooperation? Or would history repeat itself, with new empires rising, only to fall again under the weight of their own greed and ambition? Without modern technology, war might return to its most primal form. Clashes between rival factions armed with whatever weapons they can craft or salvage. Yet, even without the vast war machines of the old world, the capacity for destruction would not vanish. Guerrilla tactics, sieges, and territorial disputes could define this new age, just as they did in the ancient past. But perhaps the most intriguing possibility is that humanity's collapse could lead to an entirely new form of civilization, something never before seen in history. Freed from the constraints of the modern world, would survivors create small, self-sustaining communities that live in harmony with nature, rather than exploiting it? Would new belief systems emerge, blending the knowledge of science with the deep-rooted instincts of survival? Without the overwhelming distractions of digital life, would people rediscover the importance of storytelling, of oral traditions, of passing down wisdom in ways that do not rely on fragile technologies? And what if, in the distant future, long after the final remnants of the old world have faded into legend, a new generation of explorers stumbles upon the ruins of our civilization? What would they think of the towering skeletons of our cities, the rusted remains of our machines, the broken screens that once connected billions of people across the world? Would they view us as gods who once ruled over a golden age, or as fools who let their own arrogance lead to their downfall? Would they attempt to decipher the languages carved into stone or printed in forgotten books, trying to understand who we were and what happened to us? The last stand of humanity is not just a question of whether we can survive, but of what comes after. Will we rise from the ruins and forge a new path, one that breaks free from the cycles of destruction that have plagued us for millennia? Or will we become just another lost civilization, a fleeting moment in the vast history of Earth, leaving behind nothing but echoes and dust? In the end, the fate of humanity is not written in stone. It is a story still being told, with each generation adding its own chapter. Whether that story ends in tragedy or triumph is up to us. The final battle is not fought with weapons or power, but with the choices we make, choices that will determine whether humanity's last stand is truly its final chapter or the beginning of something greater. Please subscribe for more interesting videos like this.